Hi, everyone. I'm so excited because today we're speaking with Wanda Mann, who is like me in the journalism and communications business. And we're going to talk about Share and Pair Sundays as well as both of our connections to wine and why we love it. So, Wanda, it is so good to see you.
This is such an honor, Karen. I mean, you're someone I've admired from afar. So the fact that we know each other and that I'm here really is it's such an honor to be here. So thank you.
Oh, you're very kind to say that. We're both aware of everything that is happening in the wine world today, and I know we both feel as though wine it has an essential goodness to it. But tell me what you think we, the collective wine community, could do better when it comes to wine communications.
Sure. I think you said the magic word, community. That really has been, I think, the common thread for wine throughout these 8,000 years. In addition to being food, in addition to a time it was safer to drink than water, it's the time that people sat together and shared. And I think, I'm a big believer in education. I mean, your book has made wine education so accessible, but I think sometimes we're so guilty of making people feel like they're not worthy of wine. Like, how dare you walk in and not know what malolactic fermentation is or understand barrel programs or trellising systems? I think if we focused on who makes the wine, the people behind it, and how that brings us together, I think community is the core of it.
That is so right because, when I think of my own efforts as a writer and as a teacher, I realize that despite all those, which hopefully have been helpful, but despite that, often what is so compelling is to just tell a story about your own passion. And stories and passionate stories are kind of infectious. People get all like, I want what she's having, you know? Yeah, exactly. How did you, I'm curious, how did you get into the wine industry? You're younger than me, and it was really hard in the early days for me, but it's still hard for women, and it's probably doubly hard for Black women.
Sure. I came in a very roundabout way, definitely. Unlike now, I think with the rise of social media, there's a whole generation of people that see Karen MacNeil and other luminaries like, wow, this is a career, right? So now people at a younger age are focused on it. I had no idea this existed as a career. So I would
Mm.
say I came in through two ways. My father was a chef. And
Mm.
he bought me my first bottle of wine when I was 16, partially because I was going to be studying abroad in Barcelona for a year at 16. And he knew that wine would be a part of that experience. And he didn't want me to feel intimidated by it and just, to have fun with it. And so I would say the role of my father, the time I spent in Spain with my host family, share professional career was events planning. And for one of my jobs, I was in charge of planning all the wine and spirit tastings. The members always came, they were happy. My boss was happy because they sold out. And I started meeting people in the industry, and someone invited me on a day off. They said, why don't you come to one of our tastings? And I sat across the table from a winemaker. And it was his passion at first that grabbed me. It's like he talks about these grapes like they're his babies. And then already had been writing. I was one of those dinosaur bloggers that started some 20 odd years ago. I was writing about lifestyle and culture, where to eat, where to shop, always searching for the little perfect black dress. But he lit something in me, and I started going to more tastings on my own, studying wine, started writing about wine on my blog. And I think it was kind of the perfect moment because there were a lot of young women at that time who I think we were maybe making a little more money, were going out professionally and wanting to know what to order other than to say white wine. So as I
Mm.
was learning, I was sharing. So I think it was a combination of my passion, but also timing that worked out well.
Yeah, it's funny. My own journey was somewhat similar. I watched the people around me having such a good time, and wine seemed like it was not only pleasure, but it had this, head component. People were fascinated by it. And I loved that. I think if I had known in the early days how cerebral wine can be,
Exactly.
I probably would have said, "Whoa, this is like organic chemistry. I'm not sure I can do it." But um, but it's nice that you start out wanting to know a certain set of facts, maybe, and have a certain amount of tasting. And then years go by, decades go by, and you're still fascinated. You're in that cyclical attachment to wine where it never grows old. It just keeps intriguing you more and more.
Yeah, why you're an eternal student, and
Hmm.
that's what I've loved, no matter what stage you are, credential you have, even masters of wine, I think are still constantly learning. And I always regretted not going to grad school, but for me, wine in many ways has filled that void. I was a nerd growing up, I'm just going to confess it. Spent a lot of time reading, and that was kind of my escape. And wine definitely feels that need to keep filling myself, keep the brain working and learning new things. But
Yeah.
definitely when I started, the other part of your question, yeah, there weren't a lot of women in color. In a city as diverse as New York, I found that surprising when I would go to tastings. It's like, can I really be the only one? So almost
Yeah.
the only woman, the only younger person, and the only person of color. So kind of the trifecta of being a unicorn sometimes in the room. And
Yeah.
changing, which I'm happy to see more and more.
Yeah, I think it is changing slowly, but
Oh,
surely. And there are just more women in the business, surely. And yeah, and more people of color. Certainly that's true out here. I'm coming to you from my office in the Napa Valley. But you're right, big cities like New York which are very diverse culturally, absolutely. We should see that reflected in the wine industry. We started, Gino Colangelo, Kimberly Charles, and myself, we started Come Over October last fall, and now are in the middle of our sort of sister campaign, Share and Pair Sundays, because we wanted to incorporate food, because food is, of course, wine's, historic partner. I'm wondering how you go about sharing and pairing food and wine.
So interesting in my personal life, as you know, when you work in this business, you get the privilege of eating out often. So you're often sharing and pairing wines, is what we do professionally. But on my downtime, Sundays is kind of that sacred day where my partner and I cook and pair wine, right? So it could be sometimes we're building the meal around, oh, I have this beautiful sample that I really want to try, and we'll build a meal around it. Or it works the other way. Oh, I really want to cook this. What do we have? So
Mm.
it's part of my Sunday. That's when I get to drink what I want, how I want, leisurely, not necessarily need to write something about it, but sometimes it will spark a story. So I think it is important, as much as our work sometimes doesn't feel like work, that day that I know is just for me and my partner to enjoy the wine is important. Or when I meet with friends, and of course, I'm sure you always say, like, Karen, what are you bringing? Right. So you bring the bottles to share with your friends at a meal, but Sunday really is kind of our day to share and pair, share time together, share the wine, share stories.
Yeah. And I think when you do something as simple as that, when one does something as simple as that, it in an unconscious way, it kind of connects you to the history of people coming together, relaxing together, being together with a loved one, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, and without even being somewhat conscious of it, you feel good. You feel good because of that connection and because of that sharing. And it seems to me it's so important now.
True. And I think we're in a culture, we're very much in this hustle culture. We eat on the run. We grab things to go. Uber delivers, we gobble it. And wine tends to force you to slow down a bit, right? It gives us that permission to, like, you know what? Stop, breathe. So you enjoy that meal more, right? You're not just gobbling it up because you have to rush somewhere. So I think wine kind of provides that equilibrium that
Yeah.
we're missing.
I was talking to Lamberto Frescobaldi of the famous Frescobaldi family in Tuscany. They have made Chianti and other wines in Italy for, I think he's since like the 1300s. So he's the 30th generation or close to that. In any case, he said to me, I was talking to him about what wine he drinks, and he said very kind of abruptly, I don't drink wine. And I thought, oh, um, and he paused. And I thought, am I really going to do a wine interview with someone who's in the wine industry but doesn't drink wine? So I'm thinking, and he said, I don't drink wine. I taste wine
Ah.
because drinking is too fast. He said, I drink water. I occasionally I'll drink a beer. Sometimes I drink coffee. I
Mhm.
drink espresso, but I taste wine. I want it to be slow. I want all my senses to be galvanized. And I thought, oh, so brilliant, right?
Yeah, he should be a writer on top of everything else he
Exactly.
does. That's beautifully said.
Can I quote you on that? Exactly.
Exactly. It's a good one. But no,
Yeah.
yeah, we live in a culture, everyone's walking around with these big Stanley cups, right? Drinking water or drinking huge frappuccinos and matchas. But you're right. The thing about wine is that you do have to taste it. It's not just about gulping it down. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that I learned in my early days was to go slow,
mhm.
to really, and even to this day, if I'm doing a tasting and I've got my notebook and I'm like, not good. I then say to myself, did you spend enough time with that wine? Maybe you should taste it again, really think about it even more. Don't be so fast and so cavalier, I will, tell myself. And sometimes by slowing down, I've actually changed my opinion of a wine, thinking, oh, I see it now. Yeah, it's different than going into I don't know, a restaurant and throwing back a shot of tequila or something. Sorry, tequila, but yeah, it's different.
For sure, for sure. It's all, it's kind of like you meet someone in the beginning who may be a little shy and reserved, and you're like, I can't really connect with this person. And then there's like that breakthrough, and some wines are like that, or some come on really strong and robust. You're like, whoa, I want to, back down a little. But you're
Yes.
right, sometimes in time you get that balance with the wine, same as with people.
So do you think you had a kind of a ready-made, pretty good palate by virtue of having a chef as a father? Did he help instill in you the idea that flavor matters?
Yeah, I always say that flavor was our love language. So
Mm.
I definitely, as a child, like I would eat everything, right? Like it's like, give me more liver. I love it. So I was always an adventurous eater. I wouldn't say that necessarily I'm definitely not a super taster or anything like that. But I think that nuance, my dad was trained in classical French cuisine, but we have Southern roots. So I think understanding just those different, very flavor profiles and how you season the food. I think it did give my palate a little bit of an advantage, and then living abroad as well. So, but yes, I'm always training it. Like I sometimes will go back and read something that I wrote 15 years ago and cringe. I was like, you know what? I've learned since then. It is a journey. It's like dance, you have to keep that muscle working. So,
I completely agree. And whenever I have, let's say, I don't know, if I've been ill and I haven't tasted wine for a week and a half, let's say, and then I go back into a tasting, I think, God, it's like my muscles are rusty.
yes.
You actually have to keep practicing it. It's not unlike being an athlete in a way. Uh,
Really, yeah. We're much more elegant version of, the professional, I guess, championship eaters. But that guy, right? He always says he's an athlete, the one stuffing the Nathan's hot dogs. He has to train for that, right? So
Oh my goodness. I know. I know. So how do you said that you spend your Sundays just relaxing, cooking with your partner, and sometimes the wine comes first, sometimes the food comes first. Do you have any I don't know, hard and fast rules about pairing wine and food?
My only, I would say, hard and fast rule is, life is too short to drink mediocre wine. So I'm not a big fan of, I don't let price drive that. So it's not just about the price of the wine, but I like opening. And again, we get a little bit spoiled because we're in the industry, but there's nothing better than opening a really special bottle of wine with the meal that you made yourself.
Mm.
And it doesn't need to be an elevated meal. It might be a beautiful meatloaf that you want to have with the Gran Selezione Chianti Classico. And I think that's okay. I think that's all part of the experience. Someone's hands made that wine, and if you made your simple pot roast or pasta, whatever it is, and you did it with someone you care about. So that's only my, like, I want it to be a really good wine
Mhm.
because it's kind of the treat at the end of the week. It's the one we picked for ourselves. So I just want it to be really good. That's the only rule.
That is a beautiful rule. Yeah, my own well, and rule is maybe too strong, but guideline, I guess,
Mhm.
is I think that while certain marriages of wine and food are definitely 1 + 1 = 3, they magnify each other, and now you're in a whole new zone of deliciousness. But I also think that it's important to not just match wine to food. It's also important to match it to mood. And,
Absolutely.
and when you're in the cravings and being in the mood for something, is really powerful in humans. We all know what it feels like to be sort of, craving who knows what, mashed potatoes or steak or something. And you got to do it, right? You're kind of driven by a craving. Like, I just have to have this one thing this weekend or tonight or whatever. And I think wine operates like that too. And when you're in the mood for something, you should just have it.
I agree. And I think a lot of times, especially consumers, we feel guilty about that. Like, well, I want champagne, but it's not an occasion. We're alive. That's an occasion. You have the bottle. That's an occasion. So craving meets opportunity. That's an occasion. So go
Uh,
for it.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. So what are you working on? Have you got a piece that you're currently writing or researching?
Right now is kind of festival season, so I'm in the process of putting together wines for seminars at a Food and Wine Classic in Aspen and some other events. And I'm always writing something. So that's a good question. A few things juggling around right now, but I love writing is always my first love, but I do have an opportunity now to lead a lot of seminars, and I did one just a few days ago on Sicilian wines for a private club here in New York, and that was a lot of fun because as a writer, we don't get that real-time reaction. You send it out into the world and someone might write you or slide into your DMs, as the kids say. But when you're leading a tasting and you see that moment of, I've never had this. I love it. What is it? Where can I get it? That kind of like rejuvenates me. And I think it improves my writing as well.
I completely agree. Yes, I'm getting ready to do a seminar tomorrow morning myself, and having a room full of people,
Mhm.
turning them on to things that they don't know are coming yet. It's coming, is so much fun, and it feels generous and feels good. And I believe that wine has social good in that way. It is the world's connective beverage. It's why wine was historically the beverage of Judeo-Christian religions, because it had this ability to make us friends in its company. Um, and you really see that when you're giving a seminar or teaching a class. It feels great. Yeah.
It does. And I always say, if only the United Nations could add some wine tastings to, to those discussions, maybe we move towards peace a little better.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that the world would be a better place if all of the leaders in the world just sat down and had a little wine with each other and talked. Uh, yeah, yeah. Well, Wanda, it has been great to talk with you. I thank you for also, I know you've been helpful and supportive of Share and Pair Sundays. So we, Gino, Kimberly, and I appreciate that. We're all in the wine community, and we all need to tell its good story, and wine has a good story. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, see you soon.
I hope our paths cross in person soon.